Hello everybody and welcome to Chop and Brew. I am Chip Walton. Welcome to a mead-centric episode. Actually, two mead-centric episodes. National Mead Day is approaching quickly. It's always the first Saturday in August, and we decided to commemorate a little early this year by doing a couple of mead episodes with our good friend and master mead maker, Steve Fletty. Steve Fletty has not only been Mead Maker of the Year twice, most recently in 2016, but he's also won uncountable medals and best of shows in competition, large and small. So for this first episode, our original plan was just to sit down, and we have this flight of three meads, very different meads: an orange blossom session mead, a sour barrel aged mead, and a holy cacao chocolate mead. And for each mead, we just kind of talk through it, the process, using eclectic ingredients, honey selection, and then that's kind of this first episode. And then Steve busted out a fourth bottle, and it led to this interesting conversation about all things fruit mead, yeast and fermentation. We talk about blending, aging, and then he goes into a bit about a lot of bad meads he's had and maybe what could have been done to fix them. So we set that aside as a second episode. It was too rich to just try to work into this. So two-part banger about mead with Steve Fletty. Part one is coming at you right now. If you dig what you hear and see, Fletty's recipes are going to be available in the video description below. And also, if you like what you hear and see, support Chop and Brew, throw a donation, buy some merch at the website chopandbrew.com. And so let's get into it. Let's get our mead on. Chop for chop, brew for brew, honey for honey, mead for mead. Happy National Mead Day. So here we are in the basement of Mead Maker of the Year 2016, Steve Fletty.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Thank you for having me to your awesome bar. Access to what is surely going to be an amazing flight of mead.
Should we turn the Packer light on?
I don't know if it'll show. You can try if you want. It's like, we look like there's like a detective movie happening here. We're like, where's the wise guy over here? Where were you?
Talk, Chip!
I know.
Talk!
I swear I was the one-armed man. So we're in Steve's basement. He's going to make up a mead. He actually already made it, so we'll talk about that as we drink a bottle of the most previous version of that. But first and foremost, what do we got in front of us here?
This is an Orange Blossom Session mead, so it's around 7%. Original gravity about 1050, fermented dry, back sweetened with a little more Orange Blossom honey. Threw it in the keg, hit it with some CO2, so just a light, refreshing, session-y mead.
One question that somebody asked on social media when I said that we were coming over here was, how do you pick a honey? He went so far as to say, do you just grab whatever's available, or is it a very fine-tuned decision?
Oh, it depends what you're going to do. If you're going to make a traditional mead, like this one, you want just the best honey you can find. Not any honey, in my opinion, is going to make a good trad mead. I think you want something like Orange Blossom, or if you can find it, Tupelo. There are some other great varietals out there, maybe Raspberry Blossom, Blueberry Blossom. That's the floral source of the honey. But something unique, and if it doesn't taste good, if it doesn't smell good, it's not going to magically transform during fermentation into a good mead. So also you want to think about flavors, so the mead we're going to taste a little later, the chocolate mead, I use meadow foam honey. Meadow foam honey is kind of toasty, marshmallowy, sort of a dark sugar thing. So I thought, wow, that would be great. Maybe, it was a total experiment, maybe with some chocolate. We'll try that and see how it goes. So, think about the flavor of the honey and what that might pair with. Think of it from a cooking perspective, what flavors go together. If you're making a fruit mead, for example, a good wildflower is going to be fine, because a lot of the flavor is going to come from whatever fruit you add.
So you're saying traditional high-quality honey is essential because there's going to be less for it to hide behind or next to.
Exactly. I mean, just not any honey is going to shine in a traditional mead.
And what is your basic process, aside from having kind of eclectic ingredients or process, maybe what is the most stripped down process of your mead making?
Mix it up in a bucket with a stir stick. Throw in some yeast and you're gonna.
Well, we've got video of it that we'll show, or we can show. But yeah, I came over here and you had everything prepped. So it basically took like 10 minutes because you had everything sanitized, laid out.
Right.
But you don't boil honey. I guess that's kind of what I'm asking. Like,
no. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No boiling. All the fruit goes in the primary because I think you get better flavor and aroma and color if all the fruit goes in the primary. Spices would go in the secondary. And you want to just, if you're going to do something like that, a spiced mead, you probably want to take a small portion and add the spices to that and be very careful, and then maybe blend it back with the rest of the batch and try to find a balance there so that you don't perhaps overdo it until you've got the proportions tuned.
But you're saying you actually take some meat out to be the vehicle.
Right. So
if you get overboard, you might end up with a small amount of over the top, but you want to make sure you don't have a big amount of over the top.
Yeah. So maybe do like a 5-gallon batch, and then have a smaller carboy, a 3-gallon carboy. Put 2 gallons in that 2-gallon carboy, or that 3-gallon carboy, and experiment with that. And if you hit it right, then you can do the rest of it, or blend it.
So how did you even come to mead making? It was through home brewing, correct?
Right. I was taking the BJCP class, and we did a mead night. Even though this is a beer exam, there's no mead, but Steve Piatz decided we needed to do a mead night, and we literally, I'm not kidding, we had 70 different meads at mead night. And I was just exhausted. I was like, oh my God, another mead. It's like, oh, and most of them were terrible, like fat, boozy, cloying, sweet.
They were from people in the class, or they were commercial examples, which sounds hard to believe.
There were only 1 or 2 commercial.
Yeah.
Most of them were from local people.
Okay.
And these sort of what I call the old school mead makers. But there were 3 of them that I tasted that night. It was like, oh, light and shining down from heaven on this beautiful mead chalice. It's like, oh, I need to make that. And that's how I got into mead making.
What were those 3? I know you've told me before for that growler piece we did.
For the life of me, I can't remember number 3. Number 1 was a commercial mead. It was an orange blossom Riesling Pyment. Beautiful, balanced, crisp, acidic, honey, grapes, just beautifully balanced. And then a local guy made a Mesquite Chipotle mead. So mesquite honey, fermented with Scottish ale yeast, and then he threw chipotles in the secondary. And again, just beautiful honey, sweet, and it's got that nice darker sugar mesquite flavor. But then the chipotles and the smoke, just boom, clean up that sweetness on the end. Like, whoa, there's some burn going on there, And not Minnesota. Like real spice,
not
like,
Minnesota spice / maybe ketchup.
So you get that initial
maybe
sweetness,
sriracha and half ketchup,
and you smell that smoke, and you go, "Oh, that's really nice." And then the pepper builds. You go, "Whoa, let's have some more." So that was what I wanted to make. And from there, a bunch of us.
Is that the first one you made?
That is the first mead I ever made, and that
is so balls deep.
It just
like a first.
Well,
mead.
I bugged this guy again and again. Like, hey, how do you do this? Come on, you gotta tell me all your secrets. And he told me what exactly to do, and it turned out really well.
Okay, so you start making mead. Where does your brewing to mead making kind of percentage as far as effort or not effort? Because like we pointed out, it doesn't take a lot of effort. How much more often were you making mead kind of once you got into it?
Maybe about 20% of the time. Mostly brewing, but that's kind of slacked off now.
Oh, the brewing is slacked off. You're much more of a mead-focused fermenter. You have a reputation to uphold, god dang it.
Well, it's easier. It takes less time, and life has just been so busy that it's easier to do that than it is to spend a 5 to whatever 8-hour day making a beer.
Yeah, I agree. Even though I didn't exchange beer making for mead making, I just don't brew as much because I'm lazy.
Well, the reason I started brewing was because I couldn't get a good IPA. This was back in '97. Now I can go buy Summit Saga, so why do I need to make an IPA?
Whereas you can't go out and get you can get meads, but you can't get everyone. You're kind of back to that same situation of beer back in the day.
Well, yeah, you can't. I mean, there aren't that many good commercial meads.
They're expensive.
And they're expensive. So as a home mead maker, you can do a lot better than most of what you can buy, and you can be crazy and use I'm going to use 20 pounds of black currants or whatever you want to use and go nuts. And the commercial meaderies can't do that. It's too expensive.
Which one do you think we should go to next in some kind of order of sense?
This is the smallest one.
Should we do the holy cacao? There's a little dump bucket.
So we can rinse our cups.
I'm going to dump bucket that into my mouth. Stay hydrated.
There you go. Will that be
DJ Khaled would tell you, stay hydrated, people. You're drinking mead with Fletty. So second round, second sample of our flight is the mead of the year. Best of show mead for 2016.
Yep.
Yeah. Tell us about this guy. Holy cacao.
Meadow foam honey, fermented it out, pushed the gravity big, so around 1150, 1170. I had to check my notes. So I wanted this just to finish on its own without having to back sweeten it. So any residual sweetness was left over from fermentation.
Okay.
So that happened. This is about 16% ABV. So at that point, I've got this traditional meadow foam honey mead. I racked some off, and I added cocoa nibs, cocoa powder, and vanilla beans, and let that sit for 2-3 days. Tasted it. I was like, hey, this works.
At that point, is it all kind of floating in the top and the middle, or did it kind of bottom out?
I think the cocoa nibs float. The vanilla bean kind of floats around in there too, and the cocoa powder just all kind of fell to the bottom.
Okay. And it was good at even just after those 2 or 3 days, and you yanked it, or
racked it off the any spices within 24 to 72 hours, you're going to have what you need, and you don't want to let it sit too long.
So this is how old at this point?
This is the next to last bottle, so this has got to be a good 2 years old.
Man, I appreciate this. This is a grand treat. Before we talk about what it tastes like, can you tell me how different it tastes from the way it has tasted?
Well, like I said, initially young, you've got all that alcohol, and not bad alcohol, not any fusels by any means, but just boom, I'm like 15-16% alcohol, so it's there. Over the 2 years, year, 2 years since last year, it had mellowed from the original fermentation when it got the gold medal, and now I think it's even more round or smoothed out. You got the toasty marshmallow thing, got the chocolate in there.
It tastes very s'more like, without tasting like a cereal called s'more. You know what I mean? Where it's all artificially done. But it tastes very much like a mead still, and I don't know much about mead judging. Tell me about balance. Tell me about, so when you hear a mead with those 3 things in it, should you really get any one of those as a slap in the face, or is it really still about being a mead?
I think it has to be integrated. I think everything has to work together and play together. So honey character. What's the honey character? Does it work with whatever ingredients? Are they balanced? Are they all working in harmony? When you drink that mead, do you want another sip? If it's balanced, then you will want another sip. If it's cloying or too dry or too acidic or too tannic, it's like, But if everything's working in harmony, it's like, oh wow, that's kind of interesting. Even if it's big and sweet or tannic or acidic, if it's working together, then you're just like, oh wow, that's good. Like, oh, let's have some more.
Yeah, that is delicious. A little bit of honey graham. The chocolates, like I said, this whole time we've been emailing about this for about a year. And in my head, I envisioned it pouring, not maybe like Imperial Stout Black, but dark. Mm-hmm. So, again, it is a mead. It looks like a mead. It's just a kind of a darker mead.
And you get the warming alcohol in the finish.
how do you feel the chocolate's playing currently?
To me, it's subtle. What do you think?
Very. I was expecting it to be more. And I'm not let down by it because the second you taste it, you're reminded it is a mead. We're drinking a mead. But like I said, the s'more, it's kind of like the toasted graham.
Right.
A little, and cacao nibs, or cocoa nibs, cacao, they're not super chocolatey. If anything, they're kind of like more like the bitter husk nature of chocolate. So it shouldn't be a Hershey's bar.
And I've used those in the past in beer and other things, and it's not what you think of as chocolate.
Is that why you did the powder?
That's why I did the powder and the vanilla.
Okay.
So because I've done just cocoa nibs in beer, and it's like whatever. So after talking to some people, I got some advice from Michael Fairbrother, did some research, talked to Chris England, and he gave me some good advice this time rather than that bad advice on the agave nectar. So, yeah, you gotta pick and choose with Chris, I don't know.
I plead the fifth. I'm taking the fifth because I want him to be my friend still and be in some episodes. Tell me about being Mead Maker of the Year. Like, did you aim for it? Was it a goal, or were you really just making mead and you make good mead and it happened
the first
because
time
you make good mead?
I had no idea whatsoever, no goal in mind. I was just trying to make mead I liked.
What year? That was 11?
2007, I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, they're spaced out that much.
They're spaced out that much.
They were closer.
No, and it was like, I was flabbergasted.
And that has to be pretty early in your mead making.
It was like 5.
Oh, okay.
Like 4 years in, 5 years in to mead making, and I had no goal then. Since then, I was like, it'd be kind of fun to win again. It took a long time because mead has gotten so much better. I mean, with the Ken Schramm's book coming out and Steve Piatz's book coming out, there's just so much more info out there on how to make good mead. And there wasn't so much back in like the early 2000s.
But you were like, I want to do this. So was this specific mead? How many meads did you have in 2016? And how far did they go?
I'm trying, off the top of my head, I think I had 5 meads in first round. 2 or 3 got to second round, and this one placed.
Nice. It's beauty. It's a thing of beauty. I guess I'll ask, since you're still finishing up there. This came up a lot in this last HomebrewCon. We've had the Mead Masters of the Midwest even had a booth. You guys had a panel. It's clear that Minnesota holds its ground when it comes to mead. Why is that? Is it a community thing? Is it the...
Well, we had the old... we talked about, I think, the BJCP
the old
class.
School.
We had the old school mead makers. There were a lot of mead makers in the Twin Cities, and Ken Schramm's book came out, and a bunch of us had discovered mead, like Kurt Stock, me, Chris England, Steve Piatz was already making mead, Susan Root was already making mead, Al Boyce, and Thomas Eibner comes along, and we're all entering, competing, judging, and just pushing each other to make better mead, and it was always a thrill to be competing against these guys, and these are the best of the bunch.
And they're all in your club.
And they're all,
yeah. Or they're pretty close, like they're in one of the 3 clubs you're in.
And so when you get a medal and you beat Kurt Stock, like, wow, I did a good job. And sometimes you get beat by Kurt Stock. It's like, I don't feel bad about that. So it's just people sharing info, pushing each other to be better, sharing meads.
That's awesome. And then there's a new generation even now. So it's kind of like there's these three generations of mead makers, and it's only going to get better, hopefully, because everybody keeps wanting to be a part of that. As you list off that roster, it's just like sometimes you forget that many people are this close to home until someone starts naming them off.
Yeah, a guy at HomebrewCon, a guy came up to me, and he says to me, "That mead you gave me last night changed my life." What? Seriously? Come on.
Nice.
No. Thank you.
Well, we could keep drinking on this one, or we could go do. Let's do the sour guy. We'll come back to this. We'll let them warm up and drop out a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't filter this one.
So that's usually the powder more than anything.
Yeah,
probably,
just
right?
dropped.
Kind of
well, it was
up.
clear. It was clear in the car. It felt clear in the carboy, but then I bottled it. It felt clear again. So usually I find them, but I didn't find that one.
Round 3. Ding, 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 ding. Here, let's make the ding, 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 ding. In this corner. So this is what?
This is a sour barrel aged mead. So it was a rescue mead, actually.
I love that term, rescue mead. Rescue mead.
Yeah. So I started out trying to make a mead I've made many times, which is a 50-50 blend of mesquite honey and agave nectar. Ferment that out, so it has a lot of residual sweetness in. You throw your chipotles in. You got nice big sweet aperitif kind of mead, dessert mead, where you get that sweetness and you get the smokiness and the chili. This one would not ferment, and this is where you never get agave nectar from Chris England. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Anyway, so this agave nectar would not ferment.
What did it start at? What was the OG?
The OG was probably 1150. So one thing, we've got 3 gallons of water in here. I've already pre-measured and know what I want to shoot for my gravity. One thing you want to do is put your water in your bucket first, so that all the honey doesn't stick to the bottom. And we're going to start with the agave nectar. So I had 2 friends of mine and I were making this because it's a proven recipe. I have fermented agave nectar before. It works. It just stalled.
At what? Like
1070.
Oh my god!
This is like an original gravity on like a nice a beer, right? So it's so sweet. It's like, oh my god, we got to do something. So we check the pH. pH is fine. We repitch the yeast. Doesn't do anything. We repitch with champagne yeast. Doesn't do anything.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Champagne yeast wouldn't even cut into it?
No. And then turns out there's a special yeast that's even more powerful than champagne yeast that they use to restart stock fermentations. Hit it with that. It dropped a degree.
What is that? Yeast? I know people ask.
Uvifirm, I think. I'd have to look it up. But
okay.
A friend of mine got it from... Can we mention brands or place from More Beer anyway?
Yeah.
So it's like at that point.
Shout out to More Beer.
Yeah. So this was kind of a solid mass in the bucket, but I left it out in the garage all day, and it was like close to 90 degrees, so it kind of got a little liquefied.
What caused it to clump up?
Some honeys just do that. The only honey that doesn't is Tupelo. I forget exactly. It has to do with the makeup of the honeys. I don't remember.
So it's not a temp or an age thing, it just starts to happen.
Yeah, it does. And you can, if it's in a small container, you can, put it in a sink full of warm water, or maybe a large kettle that you can heat up slowly. And it doesn't mean the honey's bad. It just means that it's crystallized. I'm a lazy mead maker. Some people do staggered nutrient additions. I used to do the staggered nutrient additions. I sometimes still do, but more often than not, it all goes in at the beginning. So we got some filtered water, St. Paul water, the best water, well, at least around here anyway. Not that Minneapolis water. Anyway, so we put some Go Firm in the water, let that rehydrate, and then we dumped our yeast in there and let that rehydrate for about 15 minutes. And then we'll pitch it directly in the must. And we're good to go. In about 2 weeks, that'll be ready to go into the sour barrel. At that point, I was like, oh, what am I going to do with this? I don't want to dump it. I've got all this like nice, well, not nice agave nectar, but nice mesquite honey in here. But I realized I've got this Flanders barrel that I need to get that Flanders out of there. And it's like, oh boy, you are going in the Flanders barrel. So I put that in the Flanders barrel and let it sit for a while. And it's still super sweet, but the whatever's in there, Brett, pedolacto, whatever sour organisms are in there. Took that down enough and gave it some nice barrel complexity that it won a gold medal at NHC 2 years ago.
You were telling me the barrel basically had the dregs from just a bunch of stuff. And that's how your Flanders Red was inoculated with a mystery collection of
so whatever
bugs.
Good sour beer came through the house, the dregs went in there. Any Lost Abbey beer, Orval. I also had Wyeast Roselaire in there. All sorts of Brett. So I'm not even sure what's in there anymore.
What was the final gravity?
I'd have to look. I don't remember.
It is really good. It is sweet, but it has got just a little bit of twang on it.
Right.
That is cool.
Yeah. You can't drink a lot of it. But we were talking about balance before, but it's like, wow, it's really sweet, but there's like other stuff going on. It's like got some acidity, acetic a little bit, some cherry, some fruit, and then you go, oh, maybe I should have some more. I'm like, yeah, let's have some more.
Do you get a lot of barrel out of it when you have it?
A little bit. Yeah.
So we shot a video earlier trying to replicate this.
Right. So
tonight.
Yeah, we've got a different agave nectar, and we're going to try to replicate the rescue mead, and we'll see how it goes. I've put some other meads in that barrel since this one, not trying to replicate this, but I did I've got one going now, which is a sort of a session strength orange blossom that was fermented in primary with Brett Vritois or whatever, I forget the name of it, but it tasted fantastic with just that primary fermentation. Then I threw it in the barrel, and seems like it's come along really nice. So we'll rack that out and throw the new version of this in there.
That is. So yeah, it's hard to replicate something that you went into emergency mode on, right? Because you can't replicate a stall and then pitching at that exact moment.
Right.
You're just going to let it.
Yeah.
So do you think it could get drier if that agave is less English?
I hope so, because actually this is a little sweet, but yeah, I hope
You'd like it to be a little lower.
I would like it to be a little lower, yeah.
This is definitely a dessert one.
It is.
That first one we had, between the slight bit of carbonation and the lower gravity, that's when you could have a good bit of. Mm-hmm. This is a little bit more liquorish.
Exactly, yeah. Have it with your cheesecake or something.
Do you know what the alcohol is on it?
I would have to calculate it. I'd have to check. I don't remember. It's probably 12-ish.
Oh, that's it, because it's still high final gravity.
Yeah.
I would have felt like I would have thought it's more, but I think the flavors and the intensity, the complexity is fooling you into believing you're getting more power.
Yeah.
Than just more flavors. So what is the most interesting mead you've ever had from one of your peers? I mean, I went to a mead panel a couple years ago where Piatz had the IPA or the double IPA mead that was dry hopped. Who's kind of taken it the furthest outside the box?
Oh,
or is it you? I mean, it could be you for all I know.
Scott Scharr is really doing creative stuff. He has he regularly makes it. He makes a pineapple chipotle mead that's really good. He roasts the pineapple. And he just won Mead Maker of the Year with a fig mead. I love figs, but I never thought, I want to make a fig mead. So he's doing some really creative stuff. Mark Tanner out in Washington, he had a great mead I tasted at HomebrewCon, a berry chocolate thing. It's like, I was just like, I want to try that. That was, so we'll see if he gives me any info on what he did, but that was fantastic.
You're fairly open with your ingredients and recipes and procedure. Are other people less open?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I stopped telling people what I make that I'm entering because I don't want people to know it's my mead when they're judging it.
Yeah.
Meads are so unique. You know, like
that's true.
how many chocolate meads do you run across? So like I've never actually had one aside from the one I made. So I never tell people what I'm entering, but I will tell, if someone asks me, I tell them exactly what I do, because you know, if next time I see that person, maybe they're going to give me a good mead, or if I go to their house, I want to drink good mead. I'm not going to hold anything back.
Yeah.
I will tell you exactly, you know, what I think is the way to make a good mead.
Well, it goes back to that first guy too. That first one that wowed you.
Right.
Sounds like you were able to pry from that guy.
Yeah.
Every detail.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Gary Sinnen. I haven't seen him in years.
Huh. From Minnesota?
Yeah, from Minnesota. MHBA, yeah.
Well, cheers to that guy.
Cheers to
the
Gary.
alpha.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
Do you have any advice? You know, it's about to be Mead Day. Mead Maker of the Year sitting here. Is there any advice for someone who's either on the fence about starting or is already going but might need a little steer in the right direction?
It's easy to do. I think it helps to understand wine. Some people say meads, it's its own thing. It's like nothing else. Well, yes and no, but it's more like wine than beer. And so if you understand wine, I think that you're halfway there to being able to make good mead, because you're working with all those elements in wine. You've got acidity, tannin, fruit. All those things play into making a great mead. Also, think outside the box. Think, what are some flavors that I like? Pick one thing and try doing that. Maybe you like, I don't know, cherries or blackberries. Focus on making a good cherry or blackberry mead and try to perfect that and get your technique down before moving on to other things.
Because in the end, you do have to drink it.
Yes, you do. You don't want to.
So you don't want it to be like,
right.
In my example here would be like, I would not make a tomato mead because I would then not ever want to smell or eat it. So
there was someone entered years ago. Seriously, a tomato mead, a spontaneously fermented tomato mead. I'm not making this up. I did not get to taste it or judge it, but a friend of mine was judging it, and his exact quote was, "That's the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth." It was
I can't even imagine.
Just their reaction, seeing their reaction, I was like, I wish I'd gotten to taste that. It looked like it was something that a learning experience, perhaps. I don't know.
This thing's still got seeds in it. No. All right, Steve. Well, thanks for breaking out a couple of rare bottles or ones that are near the end of the batch. I appreciate it for sharing your mead wisdom with the people out there. Steve is going to share all three of those recipes, as much as you can call the sour barrel aged one a recipe.
Yeah.
We can at least recap what happened. Yeah.
Sure.
I thought you were going to say something else.
No, yeah, well, yeah, I don't know if you want to try to recreate it, but well.
It might be I think this would be a good club project.
Yeah.
If you've got a club.
If you have a sour barrel,
if you've got a club that's already got barrels kicking around, you might as well do something like this in one of them. I know a couple of clubs where I'm like, you guys could stand to branch out from, your Scottish and your barley wines and your Imperial Stouts and maybe put something like this in there. So, cool. Well, do you know the tagline, chop for chop?
No, I don't.
Really? Clearly you don't. I say chop for chop, you say brew for brew. Chop for chop.
Brew for brew.
Honey for honey.
New. Honey, ooh, there you go.
Mead for mead. Oh, that was awesome. You're like, no, what is it? You're like... So I'll do a setup separately. We'll be like, we're going to see Fletty's house. So this will kind of be after a little introduction, and we'll come out. We'll show us wiping our glasses. Oh, so jelly. Oh yeah, everybody made a picture, video of me taking a picture.
That's not significant.
I thought you were gonna eat it.
No.
I thought you were like, this is the Fletty share.
We'll do the Pooh Bear thing. He's like, got the honey bucket stuck on my head.
What if I had said all for Brew?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Brew for all.
Brew for all, yeah. I suppose.
Man, that's cool. At least you don't know Brew and TV's slogan either.
It's been so long. I used to love brewing TV.
Man, I used to love that shit too.